Graveyard shift workers, what is the weirdest thing you have experienced in the dead of night? I used to work as a security guard at a hospital, which was normally pretty chilled out, as I was normally just looking after the maternity ward. One night though, one of the patrol shift guards comes in to talk to me about swapping areas the following night, as he felt uneasy about something he had seen, and the dude was white as a ghost. I asked him what happened and all he said was as he was walking around the perimeter, he decided to check the groundsman shed and something was there. He wasn't telling me what all he said was, "I don't know, there's something there. I don't know what it is." I decided to go check it out and he can stay in the maternity ward security office to calm down. I go check it out and there is nothing, no creepy feeling or anything. I come back to the office and say nothing happened, but we can still swap areas tomorrow if he wants. The next night I go to his section and look at the patrol times and all that, and it seems pretty straightforward. It just had what time you had to check certain buildings, and the groundsman shed was at like 2 in the morning. I'm just patrolling listening to a podcast until 2 and go to the shed. I turn my podcast off and walk around the shed just to make sure he wasn't hearing some animal. I see the padlock on the side door is still attached, but I hear breathing from behind the door. I think someone has been locked in there as a prank or something, and I undo the padlock and try to open the door. The door feels like someone is pulling on it, so I knock, and then the door just slowly starts opening. I step back to let the door swing open, and I let whoever it was out. I see nobody come out, there's no shadow, I shine my torch in the shed, and the door just slams shut. I lock the shed with the padlock and if I ever got stuck on that patrol shift, I just looked at the lock and never got too close to it. I work security, primarily overnights. I was tasked with patrolling a construction site at some point a couple months ago. Construction was for some apartment complexes. 9-hour shift, my job is primarily to patrol the perimeter and make sure people aren't breaking into to steal tools, metal, copper wire etc. Throughout the night, there was a building in the back that whenever I walked near, I got a really weird feeling from. I patrolled the other buildings earlier in the night to make sure no one had snuck into them by hopping the fence. This was the last building I had to patrol before finishing out the shift with a few more walks of the perimeter. This site had no electricity. No lights installed, and was pretty dark being that it was an overnight shift, so naturally I carried a flashlight. When I stepped into the first room of this building, my flashlight began flickering. Not going fully out, but darkening and then coming back up. I got chills, but had to finish clearing the building in order to carry on with my night. The light dimming got more intense until I was to the third and final floor, when my light simply just went out. I quickly got down to the ground floor where I have been leaving my bag in order to replace my batteries, but as I got off the building's stairs, my light came back on. Not cool. Resumed perimeter patrols, light continues flickering. Decide I'm not having it. To the far east side of the site there are no buildings, just some construction crates and a few vehicles. I found a spot to sit away from the looming presence and stayed for an hour and a half, feeling nothing but fear. I have always been skeptical of supernatural occurrences and things, but the moment I set foot into the building, the only thing I felt until I left that site was a cold gut-wrenching terror. After the hour and a half of sitting, I had to use the restroom. Being on a construction site, they only really had a porta potty available. Conveniently located near the building. I mustered up the courage and went to that part of the site. Took care of my business, but as I went to open the door, I heard a low hum. Like a fly was buzzing in my ear. The door of the porta potty faced opposite the building, and when I opened it, the site was dimly lit on the ground in front of me. Look around the side to see a light pouring out of the third story of this almost completely unbuilt building. It wasn't a flashlight. It was overhead of a room on the third floor. Once again this site has no electricity. I ran to the eastern side as fast as I could and sat back down on my bench. The whole time my light was dimming and coming back up to brightness rapidly. Make it back to my bench, sit down, look back, the building in question is in the far west corner, and there's 6 or 7 buildings between that one and myself, so I feel a little less panicked and start calming myself down. I only have an hour and a half left in my shift, and I plan to spend it all sitting right here, whether I have to soil my pants to avoid that part of the site or not. I just stare in that direction for what feels like hours. 25 minutes before my shift ends, I hear what sounds like running on the steps. Keep in mind, these places are barely built, and when I say steps, I really mean a bad makeshift set of stairs held together mostly by plywood and a few tall pieces of wood. They literally shake when you walk on them, so someone running would probably make these things collapse. I hear it on the stairs of the buildings closest to me, but there is no movement. Things grow quiet. 10 minutes before the shift ended, all 4 windows facing me start to beam light from overhead. Once again, not a flashlight, but as if lights were actually in the roof and turned on in an apartment. Needless to say, I left early that day. They put me back on the site twice more that week, and I refused to enter that back building. It now has lights coming on throughout the night. No electricity, no lights installed. I'm no longer scheduled there after speaking with a supervisor, and expressing the site makes me uncomfortable for no particular reason, easily the scariest experience of my life. Worked quite a few night shifts in a nursing home that was ancient. It had originally been a tuberculosis sanitarium and then a snake pit. Finally a nursing home. I never really believed in the paranormal because I just hadn't experienced it. Members of my family have, but I guess I was just unlucky. Until I worked there, of course. I have a few stories actually. So I was never creeped out on nights until I started talking with my nurse who had worked there for 10 years or so. She said there is a little boy ghost named Henry that runs around and messes with people's stuff. Well, I'm on the Alzheimer's unit, so it's very common for people to hallucinate. After a few months, the residents started telling me about Henry. Over and over, these people with Alzheimer's keep describing the same boy. Yay high, short brown hair, round face, blue shirt. Then I get pulled to the normal unit for a night because of a call-in. Same thing, a boy with short brown hair and a blue shirt was messing with my things. By this point, I'm on the lookout for this kid 24/7 now. Thank God I had another person on the unit with me because I was creeped the fleab out constantly. One day, I go to work and start my duties. Everyone is asleep in bed, that's rare as heck, and I'm passing linens and doing my night duties. The unit is a Q shape with rooms lining the halls. As I enter the right hall in the queue, I start to hear music box music. I figure someone is probably up and at risk of falling, so I head to the music. This lady is out cold, and her 50th anniversary picture frame is playing this music. It had a wind up on the back. I'm like, oh my god, no. Why the fleeb? I'm the only one there besides the nurse who is on the opposite side of the unit. I was terrified the rest of the shift. The next shift I have a resident sleeping in a recliner in the main room because he didn't want to be in his bed. I had finished all my stuff and was just wiping counters. Then I see my resident's chair move. It's an electronic one that adjusts with a remote. I was thinking he must be laying on it. I better move it so it doesn't wake him or dump him on the floor. I kid you not, it was so fleebing far away from him. There was no way he pushed it. So I go back and start telling the nurse and it happens again. This time she sees it, so I'm not crazy at least. Later that night I was preparing to take my linens to the laundry room and I hear a whisper in my ear go, hey. I turn around in this 3 feet by 6 feet room. No one there, obviously, just me and Henry the ghost. And that's how I started believing in ghosts. I used to work at a tiny neighborhood bar, so my shifts were mostly just me. One cold winter weeknight late into the shift, the bar was completely empty and I was getting some cleaning done so I could close up early. I still had the door unlocked as occasionally we got a stray regular popping in late. Out of my peripheral, I see a person walk by and around to the main part of the bar. I turn around and put on my customer service smile, only to find no one there. I was shaken, so I decided to smoke a cig, despite being freezing out, because I didn't want to hang out alone with the ghost. I'm outside smoking and there is a car in the corner of the parking lot just sitting there with their headlights on. Every other business in the plaza is closed and the whole town is dead due to the time and weather. I'm alone in the only business in the plaza that's open and I've just got bad vibes from whatever that car is doing. They were parked as far away as possible but facing the bar. I decide I'd rather hang with the ghost and rush back in and lock the door. I closed down as quickly as possible after that and practically sprinted to my car. I used to work in a building with a woman I thought was a little weird. If she ever had to go up or down stairs, she would wait till someone could go with her, said the stairs gave her the creeps. One night, I had to work late on my own, and as she left, she said to me, "You really don't want to be here late on your own." But I wasn't worried, the building was closed and nobody could get in. Anyway, I went upstairs to get something, having to go through electronic doors at various stages, which all shut behind me as they should do. As I stepped onto the staircase to go down again, all the doors in the upstairs corridor spontaneously opened and shut again. When I saw the woman again, she asked me if I had any problems with the doors. I once did a night shift in an old hospital from the TB era that was half shut down, and one of the other nurses and I were sent to one of the empty wards to cannibalize some parts from unused beds. The nurse herself had done so before, and she refused to go alone as she always felt really uncomfortable in there. "I'd feel better having a strapping 18-year-old lad along with me," she said, thinking somehow I would be immune to such fear. This ward had no light bulbs or anything, and the hospital, being from the TB era, was set within large forested grounds where the city sounds and lights didn't penetrate. The entire time we were in there, unattended doors slammed shut, a light came on out of nowhere, and we heard weird noises. Needless to say, we got what we needed and very quickly ran back to the safety of the lit corridor. I refused to go back there alone too. I work night security at a university. Doing a walk round outside, walking past a science block around 5 a.m., out of the corner of my eye, I see a guy in a gray lab coat walking to the door of the building. I think nothing of it and carry on. 2 hours later, I go on another walk round and bump into a lecturer who works in the science block. I jokingly say to her, "One of your lot turned up early today." Lecturer has no idea what I'm talking about until I describe the guy I saw earlier. She says, "Oh, you've seen him then." Turns out, gray lab coats haven't been worn at the uni for 40 years, and apparently this guy is some kind of ghost that lots of people have seen, but no one knows who he is. I'm not a great believer in ghosts, supernatural stuff or anything like that, but the lecturer knowing what I was talking about gave me the creeps. For all I know, she could have been screwing with me, but I'm convinced I saw someone